It isn't too far away. No, it shouldn't be anyway. Hop onto the main channel. Scroll down. There it is. Game audio is working. Party audio is working. The stream's up. The chat's up. We're all good to go. It's absolutely fantastic. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to round 14 of the PlayStation Americas series here on Race Spec Esports. I'm LaneEveringham, your commentator for this event, and this time we're racing at the Albert Park Street Circuit for the Australian Grand Prix. Constructed in 1996, the circuit was made to replace the Adelaide Street Circuit to host Grand Prix racing in Australia. Over a span of 25 years, the circuit remained unchanged from its original design. It wasn't until 2021 where a decision was made to revamp the racetrack for modern motorsport. The circuit is now much faster and in certain areas wider, with the idea of the redesign being to create exciting high-speed racing. The circuit now measures up at 3.28 miles and consists of 14 corners and 3 DRS zones that lead into Turn 1, Turn 3 and the reprofiled Turn 11. The Clark chicane, located after the Turn 8 sweeper on the original layout, has now been removed, creating a flat-out section from Turn 8 all the way up to the circuit's most demanding and dangerous part, the high-speed kinks of turns 9 and 10. Now, before we focus on this qualifying session here, there is a bit of news to go through first from last week's race in Abu Dhabi. Now, from what I could see, there wasn't a single incident report, so the final results from last week's race stand. In the Drivers' Championship, Mighty Wombat is leading the way on 281 points, followed by Axis on 245. 36 points separate the top two in the Drivers' Championship, which means if Mighty Wombat outscores Axis by 5 points or more, he will become the America Series Drivers' Champion for Season 7. It also means if he wins this race, he'll be able to wrap up the championship, as well as the points gap between first and second is 7 points. Blockman is off the circuit. At turn 10, he's put the car into the wall and has destroyed the front wing. He's still running though, that's the main thing, and he's not out of qualifying. Nico is also in the championship battle, but he is 45 points behind Mighty Wombat and 9 behind Axis. So realistically, he needs Wombat and Axis to have a really poor race here at Albert Park so he can vault himself back into a more ideal position for the sake of the championship. JBH is P4 on 216 points. He is 65 points behind the championship leader. He's realistically out of the hunt, but I do believe mathematically he is still in it. Next is SC Collider on 157, followed by Blockman on 146. Saucy is next on 122, followed by Underwood on 109. KD is next on 105, and Hash rounds out the top 10 on 79 points. In the Constructors, McLaren have a healthy lead of 81 over Aston Martin. McLaren are on 386, followed by Aston on 305. I'm going to have to keep a pencil and a piece of paper around so I can do some quick math after the race. But with 2 McLarens versus 1 Aston Martin, realistically speaking, McLaren have a really solid shot of wrapping up the Constructors here today, as Nico jumps to the top with an 18.1, setting the benchmark time of the session so far. Mercedes are next on 294, followed by AlphaTauri on 236. Rebel Racing are next on 233, followed by Alpine on 229. So those three teams are pretty close together, only separated by 7 points between AlphaTauri, Red Bull and Alpine. Next is Ferrari on 201, followed by Haas on 158, then Williams on 119, and Alfa Romeo at the bottom of the table on 48 points. But that's pretty much it in terms of news. We can now focus on this qualifying session, and I have been informed it should be dry for both qualifying and in the race as well, so we shouldn't see any wet weather interference whatsoever for this event, and that it's probably a good thing for the drivers out on track. I've seen 2 races this week here at Albert Park that have had wet weather included, whether it be in qualifying or in the main race itself. what I've noticed with this circuit in wet weather conditions, it is incredibly slippery. There is very, very little traction out there when the circuit gets very wet, so I'm sure the drivers are quite thankful it's going to be dry all the way through. Rebellion here making his way through the first sector and now into the second sector through turn 6, 7 and around the long sweeper of turn 8. On the original layout, this would lead up towards a chicane that would form turns 9 and 10. It's now gone. It's absolutely flat out between turn 8 and all the way up to turn 9 and 10. The circuit's most iconic part, the circuit's most dangerous part. It's so easy to get it wrong through there. But that part of the circuit, it's so demanding that if you decide to take a big risk and really send it through there, you can actually gain a fairly significant amount of time, especially if you get it absolutely spot on. He's heading around the second last corner of turn 13 and around the final corner